Hello everyone, this is Dawn. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, I want to discuss whether I was in a cult or not. So I lived in Last Days Ministries as Keith and Melody Green's foster daughter. And it did come to my mind asking myself whether I was living in a cult, because there were all these people. It was a commune, and it wasn't necessarily easy to leave, but you could. People did leave. So, but is that a definition of a cult? You can't leave. I think that's a big part of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's not a cult. So you have a group of people who are endeared to, who are in support of, and give their allegiance to a leader. And that could be just a book club. That's a cult, but it's not necessarily toxic. It doesn't mean you can't stop being a member of that club. So a cult is just a group of people who are following a leader. So I mean, a club could be a cult. So I mean, what are we talking about when we say cult? When we're talking about a cult, a lot of times we think of like Dave Koresh in Waco. What about Reverend Sun Myung Moon? Sun Myung Moon. He's Korean. Was Korean. He's gone now. That was crazy cult. That was the Unification Church. I had a friend who was in there, and we arranged an intervention to pull her out. We kidnapped her. So in that cult, it was very difficult to get out. You had to be kidnapped. You couldn't get out of there. And there was, I don't know a lot about it, but I just know that my friend was stuck and needed help. She was I guess they send people out to I know the Christians did this. Here's a book for free for a donation. Not really free, but it makes it sound better, right? So they were, I think the Moonies, what they were called. I think the Moonies were handing out flowers for donation, if I remember right. Anyway, it's been a long time, but it was a way of raising some money for the group. And somebody from Last Days Ministries was talking to her and got her interested in Christianity, and she expressed an interest in getting out of the Unification Church. So we kidnapped her, basically. The Unification Church was big on arranged marriages. I had friends who, I think they live in Scotland. I'm not sure. I lost touch with them. They might have moved. I don't know. But they were married in the Unification Church. So that's always weird. It is arranged marriages. Basically, you have an agreement to marry your children off. Sounds weird, but it's not for love. It's more for, I think, political kind of reasons. Like one family wants to have a better relationship with another family, so they marry their kids off. So anyway, was I in a cult? I'm still not 100% sure, but I think Last Days Ministries really did look like a cult. It was a commune. We were living out in Texas on how many acres? Several acres. I think like 20. Oh, okay. 140 acres. It was a big piece of land. So, yeah. Was I in a cult? I remember asking myself that question, and something had happened. I mentioned this before, that two of the women in our ministry they became too close, for Christian comfort, and Keith made one of them leave, and the other one could stay. The one who had been with us longer was allowed to stay, and the other one had to leave because we weren't going to have none of that. None of that. So controlling, that to me sounds like a cult, controlling people's lives, who they can get involved in. So when I don't remember what it was like when what the rules were when I was, because I was in high school, and so I wasn't really involved in the day-to-day kind of activities in Last Days Ministries, so I don't remember the rules. But after Keith died and I was a full member of Last Days Ministries, the rules were, if you were interested in somebody, you couldn't talk to them. You had to go to your group leader and tell your group leader you were interested in somebody. If the other person was interested in you, they would go to their group leader, and then the group leaders would talk among themselves and decide whether to allow these two to get together and develop a relationship. That's kind of controlling, don't you think? But if you're in an environment where all these people are living together, some kind of control, you need some rules and you need some kind of control. But I think this might be overreaching. I was attracted to somebody, and I went to my group leader. He went to his. Nothing came of it. And I don't know if it was because I was Keith Green's daughter or what, but I'm okay with that. He ended up marrying somebody else in the ministry, and I left. I left the ministry. It wasn't like, I gotta have this guy, I'm in love and he's my soulmate. It was none of that. It was just, I kind of like this guy. So I think in certain aspects they were overreaching, but then again, you have to keep in mind you've got a few hundred people living together in a commune. You have to have some rules. You have to have ways to curb people's behavior. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but anyway, so I'll leave it at that. I will say this, that if you wanted to leave, Keith would be in your face. He would be challenging you because he believed, just like, remember I said in the other video that when I was going to a secular school, and I wanted to be in the play, and he said that he didn't want me getting into the entertainment business because I would fall into temptation. So Keith also believed that if somebody left the ministry, that their faith, their salvation would be in question, meaning that their salvation would, they would very well most likely backslide. In his mind, if you leave the ministry, you're going to backslide. That's what was going on in his mind. And he wanted to tell people that they can't leave. But that's kind of overreaching. So instead, he would say, if you want to leave, you have to look me in the eye. You have to stand face to face with me and tell me God told me that I need to leave. Or if it's something unusual, God told me to do this. And you have to look him in the eye. And if you're timid, if you're already very soft-spoken and meek and, let's say, easily intimidated, I'll put it that way, you're not going to survive that. He's going to walk all over you. He's going to tower over you. He's going to use his presence, his intense presence, because he's a prophet and he knows what God wants for you. Okay, so that's another bad sign for, a toxic cult, a dangerous cult, is when the leader says, I know what God wants for you. And this is what God wants you to do. And that, to me, is what you would see in a cult like Dave Koresh or Moonies or along those lines. So the other thing that makes me think about Last Days Ministries was a cult, was the matchmaking. Keith was really getting into, it seemed like to me anyway, my opinion, he was getting into matchmaking. So God told me, you should be with this other person. And instead of letting it be natural, he was putting people together. And a lot of those marriages fell apart because it wasn't a natural attraction. It was him saying, you need to, and intervening, and they weren't attracted to each other. And so there's this whole idea of, I need to sacrifice what I want, what I need, what I desire, in order for me to follow God's will. God doesn't want me to be in a relationship with somebody that I am really attracted to. God wants me to be in a relationship with this person over here and get married to this person, which I have no interest in. We don't have anything in common, and I'm not attracted to that person. But, you know, God is challenging me to overcome and whatever. So it's controlling in that way, in coercion. That's the word I want to say. I want to use coercion. I feel like Keith used coercion when he wanted people to do things that he thought was the right thing to do. I think that's the best way to word it. Okay. Let's see, looking at my notes. So let's see, there's the regular cult, which could be a book club, you know, no big deal, or a dangerous cult, a toxic cult, where the leader has a very powerful presence. A lot of these leaders were very charming. I don't consider Keith very charming in that respect. He had a very powerful and very strong presence about him, and I feel he was very good at coercion when he believed he was right. But it's overreaching. It's taking people's sovereignty away, their autonomy, their ability to make decisions on their own and follow what they feel, what that individual feels and believes is right and good for them. Keith doesn't know that, doesn't know what's right and good for the other person. Only that person knows. You know, he can say, this would be a good idea. This is, like I had said before in yoga, the yamas and the niyamas are suggestions. If you want to live a happy life, try these out. These things will help you become a happy person. But it's not a thou shalt and thou shalt not. So I'm a big believer in staying away from organized anything, even in organized groups. You know, I respect the leader and all that, but I'm always very cautious and keep one foot outside so I can leave if I needed to. I don't know if I'm paranoid. I don't think so, but I'm just very cautious, because I feel that it's very easy for someone to get sucked into a cult and not know they're in it. Oh, you should see the videos. You haven't gone through the training, so of course you think it's a cult. You don't understand. The leader is a great person. He's a wonderful person. He's a very loving and caring person. And you're stuck inside of it. You don't see it. You don't see it. A lot of times it's the person on the outside who sees it, but you being involved in it, you don't see it. So it's easy to get sucked in. Obviously, there are a lot of people that get sucked in, and they don't know they're in a cult. They don't know they're being controlled by the system that the cult has set up. Scientology, to me, my opinion, I've seen people get involved in it. These big actors are involved in it. So, you know, you think, oh, it's legit. It's got to be legit. I think there are systems in the Scientology cult, I'm going to call it a cult, that are effective and that are useful. And that's what get people to get in it. And they see how effective it is and how good it is. And because of that, they overlook the other stuff, the more controlling aspects of Scientology. So it's if you see some benefit, then you kind of like, well, it's good. I mean, I feel loved and I feel I'm healing and whatnot. So what if the leader wants me to marry this guy over here that I absolutely can't stand? So I mean, stuff like that. So they overlook the bad stuff, and it's hard to know that you're in a cult when some of it works, part of it works, and you get sucked in. So coercion, that's the big word. And I feel Keith used coercion and really didn't have a lot of faith in people necessarily. And I think that's because he didn't have faith in himself, that he felt that if he did not have the structure, that he would not continue to be saved, to be a Christian, that he would backslide. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But I really think Keith was hard. I know Keith was very hard on himself. And I just feel like he always thought he fell short. He always thought he was disappointing God. And he did not want people to be disappointed by God. So he was very hard on people. And he was hard on himself. So I guess I'll leave it there. Was I in a cult? I think I kind of was, because it was hard to leave and there was a lot of control. So I'll just leave it at that. And maybe you have a difference of opinion, and that's fine. Maybe a cult means something different to you. Okay, so that's all I have for now. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I appreciate all the support from the comments. And I would love to hear from you guys. So if you have a comment, please leave below. Okay, so I love you all, and until next time, blessed be.